A guy named Harville Hendricks wrote a book called Getting the Love You Want. It's a famous book and highly recommended. And this guy is like one of the ultimate relationship gurus. Okay, this is a really savvy dude who's spent decades working with couples and just a really sharp guy. And he says that the purpose of a relationship is to heal childhood wounds. The purpose of the relationship is to heal childhood wounds. Now, the first time I read that, I thought, he's probably just kind of saying that like all these other relationship people say something, whatever. The more I've gotten into this and studied it and thought about it, the more I've realized there's something very profound in there. The purpose of relationship is to heal childhood wounds. Heal your wounds and heal her wounds. Now, oftentimes these wounds are what lead to our greatest power. Or from them we can develop our greatest power. But we have to be aware and honest about them. I listened to a fascinating interview with this guy that runs this place called the Hoffman Institute, and they do some kind of transformational programs. And in the interview, he was talking about something that was very interesting, and I thought, this is kind of profound. Think of something that your mother used to do that you hate, or that you hated when she did it. Think of something that your mother used to do, you hated it when she did it. Write it down. Something your mother did that you hated. Good. Now think of something that your father did that you hated. All right, now I have a question for you. Do you do these things, either of these things or both, to yourself? Raise your hand if you do either of these things to yourself. Wow. Okay. Do you do either of these things to others? Who does either of these things to other people? Raise your hand. Okay. And then finally, and I think this may be the most profound one, do you find other people that do either of these things and they then do them to you? Raise your hand if you find other people that do these things and they do them to you. Be honest, raise your hand. Okay, good. We probably got basically everyone here. Isn't that interesting that the things that we hated that our mother and father did, we do them to ourselves, we do them to others, and we find others that do these things to us. Now here's the next thing that I found about this that I thought was kind of eerie as I considered it. When we do this to others, and when they do this to us, it triggers a feeling inside of us called, I'm not good enough. Okay, I'm not good enough. And it actually pushes the button on that anchor of childhood pain and suffering. Right? If you hated it, then if it happens, whether you do it, someone else does it, we're actually pushing that immobilizing button. And when we push the button called pain and dysfunction and hurt and I'm not good enough, what do we do in those moments in our life? Do we do things that serve us? Do we do things that are healthy? Or do we do things that don't serve us and that are unhealthy? Right? So when we get that button pushed, we then engage in unhealthy and unproductive behaviors because we don't feel worthy. We don't feel good about ourselves. Sand, irritant. We start to build around this thing. How do we turn this then into a beautiful pearl? Well, one of my experiences is, and that I've heard a lot of experts talk about, is your relationship with your mother really is a key to most of these things. And it's hard to look inward and see it in yourself. It's hard to turn the mirror around and go to work on yourself in these things. But write this down. When I experience challenges with women, look to my relationship with my mother. You know when you meet a woman and she's really, really beautiful, but you start talking to her and she's just doing something that makes her unbeautiful right away? You know what I mean? Like, for some people it's, smoker's breath, or for some people it's like whatever. There's something that she could do, or she starts complaining, or, a few months ago, I talked to a woman on the phone who answered my personal ad. And when I saw her pictures, I was like, okay, this is like rock star supermodel material here. Like, 10.1, like 27 on a scale of 10. Those impossible curves on her body, like she must do, 100 crunches an hour. And had some kind of weird, hybrid European supermodel blood, and put up all these pictures of it, and I was like, whoa, that woman is... And there was a time in my life where, several years ago, where I would have been like, well, I'm meeting her, that's for sure. And I got on the phone with her, and I was talking, and all she did was complain about men, and just had a negative attitude toward relationships and being used, and I, because she was so beautiful, like the reptile part of my brain was like, I've got to see if there's some redeeming quality in there. She had this hot European accent, and I'm thinking maybe it's a cultural thing, whatever. And after a few minutes, I realized, no, that's not where things are going. But you know what I'm talking about? Now, on the other hand, have you met a woman and you start talking to her, and what she does and says just makes her infinitely more attractive? If she was beautiful, she becomes way more beautiful because she's got a great personality, and there's something about her that just feels comfortable and attractive and interesting and sexy and mysterious. You know what I'm talking about? Right? I can think of women that I've met where she wasn't really that attractive when I first started talking to her. Maybe she wasn't my type, or something just wasn't right. But there was something about her. Her personality was just amazing, and we just hit it off immediately. Well, typically when you're attracted to a woman, there's like a trigger feature. There's a key feature about her that's triggering that, wow, I really like her. And that trigger feature is usually related to a wound that you carry from childhood. My mentor Jerry used to say something that was kind of sad and funny at the same time. He would say, if I meet a woman in a bar, like, I'm just out in a social event or something, or club, and I start talking to a woman, and we just connect immediately, and I feel like I've known her forever, I can just stop the conversation and say, okay, so when were you abused? Like, I just know that she was abused. So in a lot of cases, we're replaying our childhood wounds right out of the gate. I mean, like, we're into this drama or this story, triggering these emotions that we have that were set up when we were in childhood.